Elm Logistics. For all your logistic needs, call 631-299-3595. That's 631-299-3595. Elm Global Logistics. Pride, performance, and partnerships.
You know, his son is fantastic. I mean, he's fantastic. Wahoo Jr. is a great human being. I really stepped in shit. That's a New York saying for wow. Is this really going on? But yeah, I'm very happy, man. You know, but
That's awesome, though. Congrats.
Thank you. But it snowed. It hasn't snowed in 36 years. And of course, Mike, I didn't just bring, my usual New York jet luck that we suffer through. I brought snow. And I could smell it. I try to tell everybody it's coming. There's no snow shovel plows. There's no salt out here. There's no nothing. I did bring my ice scraper from New York. That saved my ass getting off my shift.
Last week it snowed here, and I moved to Nashville 5 years ago. It snowed here, and my stepdaughter, she just started driving like a couple months ago, and we were like, oh fuck, we don't have a snow scraper. So my fiance was out there with a rubber spatula, scraping the windshield.
Nice.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, when you're shoveling, do you end up getting bat wings from the sweat?
Are you back to the
shoveling?
You're back to the bat wings again?
I'm back to the bat wings. Chubby, when you do a lot of sweating when you're shoveling?
I do. I'm sweating right now. I'm sitting here.
Well, let me help you.
He's got bat wings. He's got bat wings right now.
Our new sponsor, Mando.
There you go.
They'll get rid of those bat wings for you, Chubby. All right. You just spray it in between your sack, get it off your legs, right?
Your sack.
It comes right off.
Sack release spray.
Sack release spray. And the scent is wonderful.
Oh my God.
And if you use the code MATP, you'll get 5% off.
This is real too.
This is real. A lot of things that go on here. And guess what? If you're hanging out with the old lady, and of course, in typical Monty form, again,
just like the commercial.
You use this, and you smell really good, man. You put it all over yourself. Possibly, maybe get it licked off. Who knows? But you know what?
Hey.
Mando, MATP.
Mando.
There you go, buddy.
Wow.
Anyway.
Michelle McCool. I mean, she's going to main event this thing, right?
Oh, don't even start with that. But here's the other thing, though, guys. When you're a competitor, whether it's a predetermined sport or an athlete, when your time is up, especially with someone like Triple H, you still want to compete, right? You still want to be in the limelight, right? You still want to get your flowers. I mean, I think the day any of us stop competing is the day we're going to die. So it's like, I know people get mad, but it's like, hey, you know what? I want to be that guy no matter what, as long as I can be that guy. I mean, the icon, or at least my icon, Hulk Hogan, he made a living out of that, right? It's like he did not want to give up that spot. And do I blame him? Absolutely not.
No, I agree. All right, how about speaking of Michelle McCool? I would never have voted for her. I wouldn't have even thought about her.
All right, can I just start this real quick? Last year, Stacy Keibler got in?
I think it was 2 years ago for Stacey.
2 years ago. Jimmy was irate. He couldn't believe it. He thought it was a disgrace. And in my mind, right, Stacy Keibler is more well known than, again, not a shot at you, Benny, but Ivan Koloff. It's
I'm not Ivan Koloff.
No, what I mean is I know for a long time you've wanted Ivan to be in the Hall of Fame, which he does deserve, right? But Stacy Keibler is a huge name that brings attention to the product. This is a business. So, yeah, did Stacy Keibler mean more to the wrestling world than Ivan Koloff? Absolutely not. If you went down the street and asked 10 people who Ivan Koloff is, I'd say 9 of them would have no clue. But if you asked who Stacy Keibler was, probably 9 out of 10 would. And this is a business, and people seem to forget about this. And as time goes on, these older guys are getting forgotten. Just like we, when we were younger, we didn't, we weren't looking at, I don't know, Ernie the Cat Lad or whatever else you want to throw out there, right? It's like we were in the here and now. They're in the here and now. That being said, Michelle McCool, this makes no sense to me whatsoever, and it's not fair, and it's not right, and it's not even this is lick the Undertaker's balls. That's what this is.
Yeah, I mean, she did have that wonderful angle with DDP, right, where DDP was stalking her. Oh, that was the Undertaker's other blonde wife with the tattoo on his neck, Sarah. I thought Michelle McCool, to give her respect, I did think she was very talented. She looked very athletic when she was first doing. I think she got in with a Tough Enough thing, didn't she? Or was it the Divas Search? I think it was the Divas Search actually for Michelle. But I always thought that she seemed to be too intelligent to be a wrestler because she seemed like she was I thought she was studying medicine or something at the time.
She was a school teacher in Palatka, Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think she's a very elegant woman. I mean, hey, look, if I had 3 wives, she'd be a great third wife. So credit to the Undertaker for the score, but why not put LayCool in? I mean, that might put the pillow on the bullet a little bit because she was kind of mostly known for LayCool, which was the WWE's knockoff of the Beautiful People, Velvet Sky and Angelina Love. But I mean, I think it's like Mike Monty said, this is a Undertaker reach around move. Undertaker's been a good soldier. He's been a good ambassador. He's stuck by Vince. He does the podcast with Trump. And so Undertaker's on team WWE legacy, whatever you want to call it. So they give him the rub and they put Michelle in. So it's a version of nepotism, or look out for your friends.
Yeah, but don't you think that the wrestling fan, there will be pushback on this, and it ends up being more actually in social media more nasty than expected?
I think that it might be, but it won't stop any fan who takes the time to go on X or Instagram and make some type of meme or thumbs up some type of anti-Michelle McCool meme. They're not going to not watch WrestleMania this year because of that. It's not going to stop them from watching WrestleMania or from buying a WWE action figure, or
That's true.
They're not going to say, I refuse to buy this WWE ice cream bar in the name of Michelle McCool and her overhyped Hall of Fame induction. I mean, let's face facts. We all complain about wrestling, but we still watch it. So there you go.
Yeah.
It's funny. Jimmy and I were talking earlier today, and these arguments happen everywhere. I mean, in baseball. I mean, when Harold Baines got elected to the Hall of Fame, I went ballistic, because you had guys like Munson and Mattingly or Andy Pettit not in, and you have Harold. Who the hell is Harold Baines? But Jimmy's told me something that.
Wait, Benny, let's not get too deep into this. But again, I've had this discussion with you and Jimmy, and you guys keep on forgetting that part of being in the Hall of Fame is a long-term career. And the guys you keep picking at did not have a long-term. They do not hit the criteria. Then you're the Hall of Long or the Hall of Good. You got to be the Hall of Great. I mean, Harold Baines was not a great ball player. He stuck around for a long time. That's a Hall of Fame worthy, right? Because he has it. Because
I don't think so. I mean, I guess he was good enough to stick around in the major leagues for like 21 years, and he played at a decent level, but he never was even in the top 25 in an MVP voting. He was the same with Don Sutton, who pitched for the Dodgers forever. He won 300 games. I think he won 20 games once. Yeah, he won the 15.
300 games is the criteria. This is what I keep saying.
That one. Right. No, I agree. But again, the guy was he a great pitcher? Maybe borderline, but he had 120-win season.
And look, like Jimmy and you like to talk about All-Star, Again, they play in New York. They play in Los Angeles. It's like the presidential. That's why the popular vote doesn't work in a presidential race, right? Because it's like there's many more Yankee fans than there were St. Louis Cardinal fans, for example, or Montreal Expos fans. So, of course, Thurman Munson's going to get in the All-Star game 8 times or whatever.
I don't use that as a metric. I use like Gold Gloves, MVPs, batting titles. I don't give a shit about the All-Star game. It's a popularity contest.
Right.
Gentlemen, can we put aside this fake baseball nonsense and get back to the real issue of professional?
Well, and I was going to say real quick, Jimmy told me that Jethro Tull and Iron Maiden were not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I had no idea.
I mean, here's the thing, guys. I mean, it's all subjective. I mean, the reality is you could say music. The Black Crowes were nominated this year. I was shocked. That's like my favorite band, but they had one album with top 10 singles, their first one, the Black Crowes, back in 1990, and they have not been commercial. They've been a great touring band, but a lot of it is subjective. I mean, even if people say, like I was watching Monty and the Pharaoh, and they had on a guest recently, and I think it was actually Nikita Koloff. It was a show from 2 years ago. And you asked Nikita what his Mount Rushmore Hall of Fame or Mount Rushmore of wrestlers would be. And I think he said Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, and the Road Warriors. And that's like a great Jim Crockett Promotions 1987 Mount Rushmore, right? But where's Rico Dozan? Where's Gorgeous George? Where's Hulk Hogan? So my point, guys, is it's very subjective, especially with pro wrestling, where even when people argue who is the greatest pro wrestler, what does that mean exactly? Is that
But let me ask you this, Mike. Shouldn't there be some sort of criteria? For example, did you ever main event a WrestleMania? Did you ever main event a pay-per-view? Did you ever main event a house show? Some of these, there has to be some sort of criteria. And, Michelle McCool, as beautiful as she is, and she was a good wrestler, she was a mid-carder. She was filler. And it's like, I don't know how you give her a Hall of Fame induction. It makes no sense.
Well, she was half of the women's champion because her and Lay Cool, they broke the belt in half. And I mean, look, like I said, I think it's an Undertaker thing, just like you do. But I think for her brief 3 or 4 year tenure, I thought she was very good.
Well, that's the other thing too. Longevity. There was a lot. How long was she around? Less than 5 years.
I think it was 3 or 4 years, and I think in the women's division, and Triple H said this when they inducted her, because I watched Triple H announce her get in, right? And basically he was saying that Michelle was part of the transitional period going from the bimbo type to the athletic Charlotte Flair type. So she was like a tweener between Tori Wilson and Charlotte Flair. Like Michelle McCool.
So she's getting the credit as being that transitional wrestler that moved it from the Divas division to the women's division?
Part of it. She's getting part of that. She's basically, Triple H is saying that she was, part of the transitional period from the bimbos, the hot bimbos like the Stacys and the Tori Wilson, who played their part as the hot bimbos, even though they weren't bimbos in real life, and into the modern day athlete that we see with Charlotte or Bailey or Mercedes Moné. So, I mean, I'm not too worried about it, guys, because I'll say this. I mean, to me, I get more upset about the guys like Ox Baker and Ivan Koloff, and I made a list of other guys that I think could go in this year and should go in. I get more upset about the people that aren't in than the people that are in, because, back in, I think it was 2009 when Coco Beware got in, a lot of people had a riot about Coco Beware getting in because they thought he was a prelim guy. But this guy did a lot of great stuff in Memphis. He was part of a cool tag team called the PYT Express with Norville Austin and World Class Wrestling. I just think that there's a case to be made for pretty much every wrestler. And as far as the main event thing goes, Mike, I get what you're saying, but the thing is, Baron Mikhail Sekula never main evented a pay-per-view or WrestleMania, but he was inducted in one of the early Hall of Fames, because I think one thing that's good about the WWE Hall of Fame is that they have like different levels. There's like the jobber level, like the mid-card guy level, the manager level, the dead guy. There's always a dead guy that gets in every year. There's usually a woman that gets in every year. So
right.
I don't think you have to be if it was strictly main eventers, where's King Kong Bundy? He was the first guy to challenge for the WWF title at a WrestleMania. He should be in there.
I agree. And as far, look, I understand, like, they have to, like, you can't put her in and not have China in at this point. The whole porn thing, and Triple H was saying, hey, you know what, we have to be careful because these kids are watching wrestling, and then they see this Lady China gets put in, and then they type it up, and the first thing comes up is one night in China, and that's not good for the organization. I think at a point you when you start putting Michelle McCool in, and again, Mike, you bring up some great points. I think there's other women that need to be in here and need to be put in the Hall of Fame, and China should have gotten the nod if you're going to go with Michelle McCool. That's all I've got to say.
Right.
Well, China technically is in with DX because they did list China with DX, so technically she's in.
Yeah, I know, but that's it's different, I guess, in a way, in my opinion, anyway. And then again, to be honest with you, maybe they're just running out of people to put in.
I have actually got a list, guys. Would you guys indulge me that I want to go through my list and see what you guys think?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, this one's been said before, but I added a little spin to it. Cyndi Lauper, David Wolf or Dave Wolf, and the wrestling album as an entirety, as a piece of art. Because Cyndi Lauper, to me, I can't believe she's still not in the Hall of Fame. I think she inducted Wendy Richter. But Cyndi, she's just as responsible as Hulk Hogan or anybody else for the Rock and Wrestling connection, the war to settle a score, the brawl to settle it all the things on MTV. For a period of time, Cyndi Lauper was just as big as Madonna. And for the fans of today, that would be like Miley Cyrus or maybe not quite as big as Taylor Swift, but basically that type of thing. As far as a pop diva, Cyndi Lauper was up there with Madonna, and her endorsement of WWF really put them into a different stratosphere with the fans. So I just think it's a shame that Cyndi Lauper, her boyfriend at the time, David Wolf, was one of the guys behind the wrestling album. And I'm talking about the one with the Land of a Thousand Dances. Nikolai Volkov sang on that one. Our buddy Nikita Breznikov's buddy Nikolai Volkov sang Cara Mia. Mean Gene Okerlund.
What a great job he did too.
Yeah, Mean Gene Okerlund sang Tutti Frutti. Grab them cakes.
If I can interrupt, not only is Lauper not in the WWE Hall of Fame, she also isn't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which both are a travesty. Now, I will say this: I know that supposedly the WWE asked Cyndi Lauper and she refused, but on our Twitter account 2 years ago, we asked Cyndi Lauper and she responded, and she said she was never asked.
Well, I think that's very interesting. And I think it would be maybe it had something to do with Vince. Who knows? Because now with a different regime, maybe they'll make that offer. If they did it before, maybe they'll make it now. Maria does like my Hall of Fame picks, Maria Davis. So I'll continue. While we're celebrating Triple H, we might as well throw The Rock in the mix. I mean, I think The Rock is officially not. Does The Rock get honored yet or not?
No, not yet.
Okay, so I mean, he'll another reason for The Rock to trot himself out on modern wrestling. But The Rock, of course, my buddy Ox Baker, Ivan Koloff. Speaking of women, I think this might be an interesting choice. I have a few women here. The Nitro Girls. What about Kimberly Page and the Nitro Girls? You know, you could put Shawn Michaels' wife in then because she was a Nitro Girl. But Spice and Sharmell Sullivan was a Nitro Girl. She's the Queen Sharmell in the Hall of Fame. But I think the Nitro Girls could be an interesting pick.
I honestly would have went with the Nitro Girls before Michelle McCool. I would have been happier with that pick. That's a legitimate.
I got way
pick.
more entertained by them than I ever got entertained by Michelle McCool.
I would love to see. Spice was always my favorite Nitro Girl, but I just think that they were very entertaining. I'm kind of surprised that WWE never did a version of the Nitro Girls in the years since. Here's another couple of women that I think are overlooked in wrestling annals. I know Jeff Jarrett works for AEW now, so this probably would have worked better a couple of years ago when he was with the WWE. But Christine Teeny Jarrett was Jeff Jarrett's grandmother. And she was one of the very first women pro wrestling promoters.
Legendary promoter in Memphis.
Yes. So I would like to see, if Jarrett ever comes back.
Dude, but if we're running a WWE and you're at the table and you're throwing that at me, I'm like, yeah, Mike, that's not happening. Move on.
No, I agree with Mike, but I agree with both Mikes because does she deserve to be in? Yes. But is anybody, if we ask 100 people and randomly in walking the street, maybe one person will have heard of Christine Jarrett.
And you're going fast, Mike. I want to go back to Ox Baker.
Okay.
Now, Ox Baker, as a wrestling fan, when I saw him on, Escape from New York, totally flipped out because I was an Ox Baker guy. But if you again, I want to act like we're at a table. You're presenting to us. We're running the company. I'm saying no to Ox Baker also. Would not say no to Ivan Koloff at all. I would definitely go with Ivan Koloff, but I would not give the nod to Ox Baker. I felt Ox Baker, though he had a influence on the industry, I don't think he to me he's a middle guy, but that's my call.
And I think it's one of those things, like I said, it's subjective. Had you been in the arena where I think it was Ernie the Big Cat Ladd was actually the baby face and Ox Baker's pounded him in the chest a million times and they have a riot. I think that was in Cleveland or something like that. It's on YouTube. But I think you might say, hey, man, this Ox Baker knew how to draw business. Or if you watch the Price is Right thing with Barb Barker and the movie that you just said, like I said, it's all very subjective. Ox was in the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame by my buddy Joe Bruin, put him in, which Ox really coveted that. But, okay, so I said Ox Baker. Was there anything else I said that you wanted to debate a little bit?
You said Koloff. I think we're all in agreement that Koloff should have already been put in. Again, if people don't understand, from what I understand from talking to a lot of the guys, the reason Koloff isn't in, and it kind of doesn't make sense to me, but before superstar Billy Graham was given a title, Graham was in the WWE with Koloff, and they held up Vince McMahon Sr. for money. That's from my understanding, and that beef stayed on for a really long time. Doesn't make sense to me, though, because Koloff did wrestle Backlund. I don't know if Junior was in charge there, so that means that Senior was still okay with him, I'm assuming, but whatever.
Yeah, I think it was the story I heard was Koloff, Superstar Graham, and Big Cat Ernie Ladd were like the three top heels in New York, and they said, give us more money or none of us will show up or something like that. So I've heard that same story. As I mentioned earlier, there's always a thing with, we got to put a dead person in here. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it always seems like, going back to when Eddie Guerrero got put in a few months after he died, I think that was in 2005 or 2006. But this year, unfortunately, there's some good choices for the recently deceased. You've got Psycho Sid Vicious, who was a two-time WWF champion, two-time WCW champion. He was an amazing presence. He wasn't the best technical wrestler, but as far as a look and as far as a crazy face, I mean, Sid was pretty impressive.
Absolutely.
And then, go ahead.
No, I would say I think he won a title twice in WCW and twice in WWE.
Yes.
Wherever Sid went, they gave him the title. The guy, if you made a wrestler, from scratch, Sid Vicious is the guy. You know what I mean? Definitely, he should be in the Hall of Fame, and I think that's happening in the next few years. But go ahead.
Here's one. I mean, here's the slam dunk that we didn't get last year. By the way, a few people have commented Missy Hyatt, which is an interesting choice, or Miss Elizabeth. That would be
Miss Elizabeth, yeah.
Miss Elizabeth, Mike, that's a great. Miss Elizabeth should be in the Hall of Fame, and she should be in before Michelle McCool.